is the big Poco Pad M1. Do you know how much you need if you want to buy one of these?
I need about $350.
$350.
And the reality is, if you walk into an Apple store with $350, the best you'll probably walk out with is one single sock. And Poco are really well known for their value proposition, so this one should be kind of interesting because you're about to see what you can get for $350 if you go for a Poco Pad M1. So let's kick this off by doing a quick unboxing. This tablet does have Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, as well as all your favorite Google apps. Okay, I did not see this coming. There is an entire A4 page of stickers. Apple did get rid of their individual sticker, probably to cut some cost, and yeah, Poco ain't doing that. Here are some of the top level specs. And wow, that blue is really nice. It's kind of like a royal blue. You've got a bit of Poco branding here and a camera module with a camera and a flash. Let's see what else is in this box. So a few compartments here. European charger with this one. That's really nice, and that's an impressive charging speed for a tablet. USB-A to USB-C cable. SIM ejector tool, which means there's either a SIM tray or an expandable SD card slot. And that is it. So first off, the back of this is really nice. The frame is aluminium. You'll notice if you look here, 2 speakers right there, and then on the other side, 2 more speakers, plus a headphone jack, which I'm really happy to see. Operating system is going to be HyperOS out of the box. I think it is HyperOS 2.0 on Android 15. And it's worth noting, if you buy it at the right time, you could potentially get the keyboard or the cover case for the tablet for free, but you better check the deals below this video to see if that offer is in fact still running. And something that I kind of hoped we'd see would be a pre-installed screen protector, but unfortunately not this time. So as you can see, this is quite a sleek tablet and the frame is aluminium. The weight on this one is 610 grams. The thickness is just 7.5 millimeter. 2 colors, blue and gray, this obviously being the blue. This glass on the front is Gorilla Glass 3. That USB port is USB-C 2.0, and right there you can see they're very proud of the fact that this supports Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. And the headphone jack is a big plus for anyone who appreciates the highest quality audio with the lowest possible latency. Let's see what this ejectable tray is all about. So there is a gasket around this, although there is no official IP rating on this one. It looks like it was a classic SIM tray SD card hybrid, but they've converted it to just an SD card slot. And I'm told you can expand this up to 1.5 terabytes if you need that extra storage. The read-write speeds aren't super fast on the supported formats here for the SD card. As standard, it has a pretty fast 256 gig ROM and 8 gig RAM. I think the bezel thickness seems to be just right. It's just enough so that your thumb won't touch the screen when you're holding it like this. So if you're watching something, you're not obstructing the display itself and you're not going to trigger anything off like fast forward or rewind. So I'm not going to lie, this is somewhat of a fingerprint magnet. It's been out of the box for about 5 minutes. And yeah, it's picking up some prints for sure. So you might be wondering, what's the deal with the cameras? Well, that one right there has a 13 megapixel sensor and a pretty big flash. There's also an 8 megapixel selfie camera here, which is on the landscape side of the tablet, which is nice because when you're on conference calls, you're probably going to be using it this way around. The button placement is quite interesting. So you've got the volume rocker here, and then you've got the power button here, and that is just the power button. It's not a fingerprint scanner or anything like that. This tablet actually only supports face unlock, which is a 2D face unlock, and a pin number. Let's see how fast this face unlock is. Yeah, it's pretty snappy. Now let's talk about what's arguably the most important aspect on the tablet. It is, of course, the display. So the Poco Pad M1 has a 12.1 inch IPS LCD display, but it does support Dolby Vision. It's not going to be quite as power efficient as an OLED display, but there's some good news in that department. We're going to come back to that. Resolution here is 2.5K, 2560 by 1600, pixels per inch 249, and that doesn't sound like a lot when you compare it to a smartphone, but when you compare this to a 4K TV that has 70 pixels per inch, yeah, this is respectably pixel dense for its size. Refresh rate here is 120 Hz. The brightness is up to 600 nits. That's in high brightness mode. Touch sampling rate is 180 Hz. Although there is a game booster mode that can increase the sensitivity of the screen so you get faster response times when gaming. That mode's called Game Turbo to be more specific. And whilst we're talking about speed, this does support Wi-Fi 6, which means connectivity speeds can be surprisingly rapid if you have a modem that supports Wi-Fi 6. And if you're not going to be using the Dolby Atmos quad speakers on board or the analog audio jack, well then you can make use of Bluetooth 5.2 with LDAC or aptX HD for that higher quality sound. Of course, you still get the AAC and SBC stuff, which is pretty standard stuff really. Now, some of you might know that this tablet actually has a Snapdragon chip, and you might be wondering, why doesn't it have Snapdragon Sound? Well, it turns out that in order to have Snapdragon Sound, the hardware must meet the requirements, and that's not to say that it doesn't. It just means that Poco haven't paid for the license here on the Poco Pad M1, but to be honest, that's not a deal breaker. But LDAC is going to be fantastic for high-res audio anyway. And whilst we're talking about audio, do you want to hear what a quad speaker Dolby Atmos tablet sounds like? Let's get the volume up. So you can definitely hear the sound going around the tablet. The way that it's using those 4 speakers allows it to kind of create these pockets at the top right, top left, and bottom left, bottom right, and it can kind of circle around. So it actually really works. I'm impressed. So here are some of the need to know specs. The chipset here is the Snapdragon 7S Gen 4. It is a mid-range chip, but it is more than powerful enough to run any game you want to play, but you might have to throttle performance a little bit on some of the heavier games. It has 8 gigs of LPDDR4X RAM, 256 gig UFS 2.2. One big advantage for devices like this when it comes to thermal cooling is it has a much larger surface to vent the heat. And I don't believe the Snapdragon 7S Gen 4 is a chip that's known for getting extremely hot. So gaming for a long time here shouldn't be a problem. So if you are a sweaty gamer, you don't need to sweat it with this particular tablet. And I am told it does have a thermal cooling system dedicated to keeping this thing running smoothly. So one of the big standout features for the Poco Pad M1 is this massive 12,000 milliamp hour battery. And they say it can run 16 hours of continuous video before it runs out. As you saw, you do get the 33 watt charging brick, and it does support speeds of up to 33 watts, obviously. And check that out, you get a little dynamic island as well. And if you're interested in the software on this thing, I have made an entire video dedicated to HyperOS. I'll link it at the end. And I think another standout feature for this, since this is kind of a traveling companion, is the fact that you can reverse charge your phone from this via a wire at 27 watts. So it kind of acts like a power bank when you need it. And of course, there's a bunch of AI features baked into this tablet. Of course, you get the standard Google stuff, but there's also things like AI writing assistant, AI art generation, and there's even an AI calculator on here. And Poco say they are committed to 3 years of Android operating system updates, so that's going to take this one up to Android 18 with 4 years of security patches. And whilst we're talking about using this as a traveling companion, something that you'll probably want to get if you are going to be throwing this in a bag is a case. So let's get a look at these real quick. I believe this one, if you buy it separately, you don't get it in a deal, is just over £100 here in the UK. Hopefully this will hide some of those fingerprints. There's definitely a bit of weight to this. If something crazy happens on a train and you find yourself in danger, you could frisbee this at someone and I'm sure it'll take them out. It is that heavy. And it is for a reason. You get a full QWERTY keyboard here, which is really nice. No trackpad though, but let's click this on and see what it looks like. Oh, check that out. There's a little bit there for the stylus if you do decide to get the stylus for this. And then you've got this little magnetic ridge right here that locks it in place. So you've got your kind of laptop setup going on. It's definitely a good hard shell, and it's got reinforced corners. At least 2 of them are reinforced. These are kind of recessed here. Now the cheaper option is just the case on its own without the keyboard, and this looks almost identical to this in finish. Let's get a look real quick. Okay, so I've just ripped this off by accident and I've realized what it actually is. The little loop thing to run the stylus through if you do have the stylus, so you can remove that if it's getting on your nerves. Oh, don't you hate it when that happens? Anyway, this is also a hard case. This one does protect all 4 corners, so it doesn't need that gap for the keyboard like the other one. This is arguably even more robust than the other one. I hate when that happens. And then the way this one works is you kind of wrap it around the back and make this little triangle shape here, and that allows you to rest it on a surface. You can't really adjust the angle, unfortunately, but at least if you're on a plane or something like that, you can prop this up and watch a movie very, very comfortably for up to 18 hours if you're going on a long flight. So just for fun, since I did benchmark the Poco F8 Ultra and the Poco F8 Pro against each other, let's see how this benchmarks. And also, to make things even a little more interesting, I'll give it a little bit of a thermal scan to see where the heat's going inside this thing. And I almost forgot to take a couple of pictures to show you guys the camera quality. Let me do that right now, then we'll do the benchmark. Not bad detail at all. Not bad. That is with the rear camera. I used the timer there using the volume rocker to set it off. Let's see what the selfie camera's like. Okay, selfie camera's a lot wider, and that is not a good pose. That's my best attempt at doing a Zoolander. But not bad though, not bad for a selfie camera on a tablet. Being very honest, I actually thought it would be a lot worse than this. So yeah, pretty good. All right, so now let's do this benchmark. We're gonna run 20 cycles of a pretty heavy benchmark test. So I'm just going to download that now and get it set up. So I was just getting ready to sit back and relax and watch this do its thing, but unfortunately it looks like Poco have not allowed 3D Mark to run their benchmarks on this device, which means I'm going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and play a game for 20 minutes with the graphics set to the absolute maximum. So it's game on. Okay, so I've got Call of Duty set up now. What I'm going to do is go into the graphics, set this to the highest, very high. Let's go to the frame rate, it's maxed out. Let's see if we can go ultra. Shader preload, you could do that. 2 to 5 minutes. Okay, the shaders have been downloaded and installed. I've inverted the pitch on my controller and also flipped the buttons as I do on console. I think we're ready to go. Okay, so it's now the next day, and I'll be very, very honest with you guys. I ended up rage quitting last night because I tried to run the 3D Mark, didn't work. I tried to run Antutu, that didn't work. I Bluetooth connected my PlayStation controller to Call of Duty and it wouldn't work. It did connect to the tablet though, and something that was quite nice was the fact that I could use the touchpad as a mouse on the tablet, but it wouldn't work in the game. Then I tried an Xbox controller, didn't work. PS4 controller, didn't work. So at that point I threw in the towel, but I have a plan, which is to test out this game, which is Wuthering Waves. 40 gig download, it took absolutely ages. Graphics to the highest that it possibly can be. And I'm gonna play it for 20 minutes and I'm gonna time it here on the Poco F8 Ultra. And then I'll be able to show you guys the thermal readout of this tablet after some pretty heavy gaming. And I've never properly played this game before, so it should be quite interesting. Let's get the game turbo on the go. I can see why people like this game. And we are now 20 minutes into this gaming session, so it's probably a good time to do the thermal reading. Let's get a look with thermal vision. So here we go. This is the thermal imaging of the Poco Pad M1 after 20 minutes of gaming. The hottest point right there is likely where the chipset is. And what you'll notice is the highest temperature is 36 degrees. Typically, devices don't throttle until they hit about 44, 45. And the lowest temperature is 32, and that's lower the base. And you can see how the heat is spreading really nice and smoothly, which is definitely a good sign. So yeah, the thermal management and the gaming performance on this is pretty good. Whilst gaming, I noticed hardly any stuttering or stumbling on the device, which is also a good sign. Overall, I am genuinely impressed with this tablet for the price point that it comes in at. If you guys want to check out my Poco F8 Pro versus F8 Ultra comparison, that's right here. And if you want to check out how to customize HyperOS like a pro, that is also on the screen. Appreciate you guys watching. See you in the next one.
I need about 350.
350.